and religion in Israel. We are broadcasting live from the Masorti movement offices in Jerusalem. And before we start, we have a few technical issues that I would like you to listen to. It's a Zoom webinar. I will interview our guest, and I will try, believe me, I will try to be hard on him as possible, but I hope that I will not be the only one who will be asking questions this evening. If you want to ask a question, please hit on the click chat on the bottom of your screen. A window will be opened and you can write your question. We will get it here. I hope I'm back again. I'm sorry for the challenge that we had. I would like to thank Jewish Pluralism Watch for hosting this webinar. Emily Levy-Shochat, JPW Chair, and Daria Knafo, JPW Director. I would like to thank our supporters, the Masorti Foundation in the United States, Heidi Schneider, the Foundation's Chair, and Gideon Aronoff, the Foundation's Executive Director, and of course, our Masorti Foundation in Canada, Rabbi Jen Borman and Ron Hoffman, as well as the Jewish federations and foundations from North America and elsewhere that are supporting the most important work of Jewish pluralism and diversity here in Israel. And now to our guest, Eli Avidar. Eli, good evening.
Good evening.
I will introduce you for a minute. I must tell you that I was stunned from the things that you did up until now. You are a new MK, new member of Knesset. You held a senior diplomatic position in the Israeli Foreign Affairs Ministry, including the Israeli consulate in Philadelphia. Maybe some of our viewers remember you from then. You served as the Israeli Consul General in Hong Kong, and before that, you worked in the Israeli interest section in Qatar. Wow, this is fascinating. You were the advisor of Ariel Sharon when he was a Minister of Foreign Affairs, and after you left the civil service, you became a businessman. You were the CEO of the Israeli Diamond Industry Institution and the Israeli Diamond Bureau, LTD. You were the president of Israel Africa Trade Bureau. But you left the business life and went to politics. This is your first Knesset. You just joined politics recently. You are number 4 on the Yisrael Beiteinu list. And the Yisrael Beiteinu party is probably the rainmaker of this coming elections. It looks like Avigdor Lieberman will be the one to decide who will be the next prime minister of Israel. And being number 4 on that list is quite significant because Eli Avidar brought to Yisrael Beiteinu, I think, a new spirit. He was the first member of Knesset of Yisrael Beiteinu ever who joined the gay pride parade in Jerusalem, and ever since then he is a vocal leader that talks on behalf of LGBT rights in Israel. He is a strong supporter of against women's segregation in Israel, public events, university, and he also supports, of course, I can say now, of course, not because Avigdor Lieberman's party usually supported, but now it's quite obvious, they do support now civil marriage in Israel and public transportation on Shabbat, and something that is very important for us, the Kotel Agreement and its implementation. Something personal, Eli is married, a father of 3. He's a writer. He wrote a novel even and got great reviews, and also more programmatic book. And he is something that I learned only today. He is vegetarian.
Vegan.
Vegan. Even more exclusive. Kol hakavod. Eli, I would like to start with something that I'm sure that many of us are hesitant if indeed Avigdor Lieberman's attempt to be viewed as an activist in social rights and liberal rights, if it is as genuine as he puts it together. He sat with the Haredim in numerous coalitions. He even in the last elections in Jerusalem supported the Haredi nominate to be the mayor. And now, all of a sudden, in this election, he became a supporter of our causes. Is it a spin or is it genuine?
First of all, good evening. Let me start by correcting one point. The mayor of Jerusalem is a good friend of Avigdor Lieberman. He's a member of our party. He's not a member of any Haredi ultra-Orthodox movement in Jerusalem. Yes, he is religious, but we have many members of our party that supports our values and foundations. And
Avigdor Lieberman could have supported the Chiloni, the secular candidate for being a mayor. He chose to pick the one that all the Haredim supported.
That was not an option, basically, because the one who was secular was quite young and inexperienced, and definitely we will 100% support someone of our own ranks. Yes, most of the Haredi community in Jerusalem supported him, but not all of them. And it has been, Jerusalem has been a very complicated city, a very delicate city, and we do believe that the mayor of Jerusalem of today, Moshe Leon, is a magician in politics, and he's the only mayor in the state of Israel ever to function as a mayor without even one seat on the board, without one member in his council, which means he doesn't have political power in the council of the city, which is very significant, but yet he's able to run the city. This is the most complicated city on earth, if you may. And he's doing it quite right. So
okay. So regarding Jerusalem, I think it's quite a good answer. Regarding the general arena, the fact that all of a sudden he became a liberal rights supporter of Avigdor Lieberman, isn't it a spin?
No, it's not. It's not, because he was always a supporter of these rights. The main issue is that until the last elections, which I believe this is the border that we didn't want to cross. Until then, we were in coalition with ultra-Orthodox and light Orthodox parties in the government and in many of the cities in Jerusalem because of the coalition needs in each and every one of the cities. But yet, I believe that the last elections, when we were in the period of negotiation, entering the coalition, and we saw how Benjamin Netanyahu was giving everything to the ultra-Orthodox and the light Orthodox movements, and in the same time, he was unable to give us even the most insignificant fact that we asked for, which was the enrollment law, which passed already in first voting, and we didn't ask for something significant. We basically asked that it will be it will come to a second and third vote in the parliament, and he was unable to do it. And at that point, we believe that if we are in a situation where the prime minister has submitted to all the needs of the ultra-Orthodox movements, and if I may say so, we felt as if the ultra-Orthodox movements, because of their power, are actually bullying the political arena in the state of Israel.
It may be true, but in the last 20 years, this was the reality. Avigdor Lieberman sat in governments that gave the Haredim fortune more than ever before. The last government was the one who gave the Haredim a fortune that was never given before. Yet, he was okay with it. And now, all of a sudden, it changed.
Keep in mind, the prime minister was not Avigdor Lieberman. He was not the one to give and to take. He was joining a coalition that was created by Benjamin Netanyahu at one point, and by Ehud Olmert at another point, and by Ariel Sharon at the third point. He was joining as a party to the coalition. He was not the one to decide what the Haredi will get or not. But let me correct you, for the last elections, it was the first time in the history of politics in Israel that we were unable to see even the drafts of all the demands that the Haredi parties asked from Netanyahu and what Netanyahu agreed to give them. We knew that it was a huge amount of billions of dollars, if I may say so, that we basically got the information because of rumors that we spoke to officials in the Ministry of Finance. So this was the only one that we basically collected rumors of what Netanyahu was giving or not giving. But let me be very clear here. My party always supported civil marriage. It was always a problem to create the right coalition to support that. And we supported all kind of rights in the Israeli society all the time. But in the same time, I believe that the last elections, when we saw that Netanyahu did not have the majority without us. He had 60 seats out of 100 seats, which means he doesn't have a coalition. And yet, he was unable to even to go to a very small and insignificant compromise on the enrollment law. That's why we felt it's whether we do it now or we give up to a halachic state that will be actually in process, because we knew that some of the Haredi members were already given positions that would put a halachic state in power right away.
And you can guarantee that under no circumstances, Avigdor Lieberman will not join a right-wing Haredi coalition after the next elections?
Definitely. I can guarantee, because I have been there in the negotiation rooms. I have been with Avigdor Lieberman 30 minutes before he went to the prime minister in the first negotiation meeting. And at that meeting, we wanted to join the coalition. We didn't want to take the country to a second round of elections. We wanted to go in, and we put 5 demands, very simple demands to enter the coalition. And Lieberman told me himself, on 4 conditions, Netanyahu will be able to maneuver and will say that he will give it and later to retreat. On one, Lieberman said, if he will not give it, it means that he gave everything to the ultra-Orthodox parties, and that's why it was the enrollment.
And that was the enrollment, the draft. Eli, I'd like to ask you about something that happened today. I'm not sure that all our viewers know already about it. Today, Yediot Achronot, the daily Yediot Achronot, reported a story of Amichai Atali, that a senior MK of the Likud offered the Noam party, it's a small list that runs for this Knesset, right-wing, even Messianic right-wing party, and that Netanyahu wants them clearly to avoid from running in this election, that he offered them in return for their stopping running for the Knesset, to cancel the egalitarian Kotel, to cancel Kotel HaMishpachot. It was on the front page of Yediot Achronot today. The Likud, I must say, said that this story is not true, yet it's a senior MK that offered it, I would assume, with getting a permission before. Your reaction, Eli, to that idea?
I will say this. I know member of Knesset, Miki Zohar. He's not a junior one, he's very senior, and definitely he does not have the liberty to provide any kind of deals to any party without receiving a direct clearance from the prime minister. And this is from my experience with Miki Zohar, and I know him. He's not a wild card on the Likud party. He definitely talks to the prime minister before making any statement. Let me tell you about the Noam party, because this is something I'm sure that our US viewers will try to understand what is a Messianic party.
US and Canada, US and maybe Canada, Australia, definitely. And other places.
And I would say that Messianic is probably not the right definition for this party. I would say fundamental.
Yeah,
fundamental party, and not Islamic fundamental as people would think, but fundamental, it means that going to the basics of Judaism, not now, but 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and going to those basic fundamentals. The Noam party, the offer that was made to them is outrageous. It's unheard of. And definitely, regardless whether we will be in the coalition or in the opposition, we will not make it happen.
Your party is committed to the Kotel agreement?
I tell you something. We are committed to the Kotel because we believe that...
Yeah, to the Kotel, all of us, to the Kotel agreement.
To the Kotel agreement, definitely, because we do believe that each and every citizen in the state of Israel has the freedom to worship his own religion and the school of thought that he follows. So this is why definitely we are committed. And I will tell you that regardless whether we will be in the coalition or not, this party, Yisrael Beiteinu, in the last term of a group of MKs, I believe, I do not want to give ourselves a lot of credit, but we are very active. We are not silent. And we are able to express our views, and we are able to make a difference. And I believe that this part, even if Likud will be able to create a narrow government of 61 seats of members of Knesset without Israel Beiteinu, only right-wing and fundamental right groups, it will be very difficult for them to do it because we will make it extremely even impossible.
You know, when such thing happens in Israel, when we hear about it in Israel, when Jews all over the world hear that, read this headline, the main question that we have is what we should do. What is the right thing to do at this stage in order to make sure that the Israel government does not do such a wrong act in any way? Do you have any advice for us?
I definitely recommend that people don't stay silent.
What do you mean?
I mean that you have to express your voice. The Kotel is not a personal asset of the ultra-Orthodox movements. It is a national, an international Jewish asset, belongs to Judaism in all school of thoughts. And it's definitely not the personal place of worship of the Orthodox movement.
So Jews in North America should what should they do? Should they express their views? Should they write Facebook posts? Go to the Israeli consulate and protest? What is the right thing to do in your eyes?
I would avoid going to the Israeli consulate because the diplomats, and I've been a diplomat in the US, I don't see how Israeli diplomats can make a difference. They basically will take a note and will send it to Jerusalem. But the main issue about it, and I believe that this is something that we have to clarify, when we receive resentments and protests from members of the Jewish world around from abroad, sometimes it is connected with politics, internal politics. And I believe that we should make a difference. We should differentiate between politics and state and religion relations in the state of Israel. When we speak about the Kotel, usually when, from my experience, when rabbis write a letter, it's always connected with the territories and Judea in summary and the peace process. And this is something that shouldn't be connected to religious rights in Israel. It shouldn't be connected to pluralism in Judaism in Israel.
So you feel, if I understood you correctly, you feel that when it comes to Jewish pluralism, the Jewish voice that is heard from out of Israel should be as loud as possible? This is what you mean? On these issues, you know, go as hard as you can?
I do believe that people should express their voice. And definitely, and I'm familiar with the Jewish community in the US, and especially from the conservative school of thought in the US and in Philadelphia. They are major supporters of the state of Israel and even right-wing governments in the state of Israel. They are committed Jews that go with us a long way. And why shouldn't we hear their voice when it comes to the Kotel and to the Kotel agreement? We should hear their voice, and we shouldn't hear the voice only of the Orthodox movement in America. The conservative movement should be vocal and should express their views about it.
Eli, I would like to go back to our internal arena. I must tell you that I was surprised to see you in the Gay Pride Parade. For many years, we tried to make the Yisrael Beiteinu to engage with their MKs, to engage with Avigdor Lieberman himself, to have him say anything more relaxed even regarding the LGBT community. And here you are, a new MK, coming to the parade. How did it work out? Did you ask Lieberman beforehand? Did he know that you are about to go there?
First of all, let me say in a humble way, I'm 54 years old. I came to politics after a long career in the military, business, and diplomacy. I joined the party to bring myself and my values, and not only that it wasn't a problem, I did not have to consult him to go to the gay parade, but he 100% supported me on
No,
that.
no.
And
But you asked him in advance or after the act?
as I said, I didn't need to ask him in advance.
How come?
How come? Because this is the way. People have this impression that members of MKs of Israel Beiteinu needs to ask the chairman if to say good morning or good evening. This is not the case.
No,
He
but
knows,
going to the Pride Parade, it's
no,
a
no,
big
no.
deal.
It's not a big deal because basically I went to the parade because I was given information in advance that some of the extreme fundamental movement in Israel run by Benzi Gopstein was planning to run a demonstration inside the parade. And I felt that it's about time that I, as an MK, should be there and express my views against it. But definitely, first of all, Lieberman knows that I went there and he supported me 100%. He had an exchange of letters with the community, and he also supported always the right of the gay community to have marriages. He supported all kinds of marriages, in all kinds, civil marriages, etc. So
I'm not sure that you are correct regarding the previous Knesset about Lieberman, but I trust you that he changed his mind, which is very good.
I don't see as a major change, but I would like to stress something that maybe our viewers don't know. We are in the middle of the most brutal political campaign ever conducted in the state of Israel. Keep in mind that we monitor public opinion in social media in Russian, for example. And we see that every week, we see people that Likud party is hiring to bash us on all kinds of issues. And number one issue that they bash us is on our opinions on the gay community. And this is something that we see.
It means that the Russian public opinion in Israel about the gay community is maybe more conservative in the small c.
It may be, but I would say this, that it means that Likud is trying to title us and to title us as a party that changed his opinion, and definitely to bring about all kind of opinions that were legitimate in 2019. And seeing the monitoring and the results of monitoring the public opinion in the social media, not even one time. Avigdor Lieberman called me and said, let's calm down our position on the LGBT community. And as an example, tomorrow, I'm going to the national conference of the LGBT community on politics. I'm going to be there in Tel Aviv. So we are fighting in a very brutal campaign, and not only on the LGBT community. For example, one of the issues that we are attacked, I personally am attacked because I express support for the Ethiopian community. And you can see, because we, today with the algorithm, we know exactly who's writing, what is writing, and where he's coming from. And we know that these guys are actually paid by Likud. So, for example, number one post in Facebook in Russian was why Lieberman is bringing MKs that support the Ethiopian community when Ethiopians are not voting for him. We are voting for him. Why he's not dedicating his time to us?
And this is Likud bots, you think, on Facebook and Twitter?
I would love to say bots, but it's not bots. It's people that are paid and paid a lot of money. And
this is a serious accusation that you make here.
Not.
No, this is a serious vehicle to do this statement. But is it?
I don't know if people know. I believe that the brutality of the campaign in Israel are. I'm not sure that it's equivalent to what happened in the last elections, the national elections in the U.S., but it's very close to it. This is a campaign. Keep in mind that until now, let me give you an example of what's happening in the campaign now. Likud has devoted almost 50% of his budget to the Russian media, and not even 5% of its budget in the Hebrew media, because they are seeing us as a problematic party and they want to undermine our basic support. And this is what they are doing. So we are fighting it. And as I'm saying it, and this is, you know, I admire Avigdor Lieberman for not even calling me in the last 9 weeks, even one time to say, Eli, we are getting a lot of hits. Why don't you calm down your opinions on this?
This is really stunning. You know, I must tell you, you know, I was thinking this morning, how many times did he reach out to you and told you to calm down? And here you are saying never.
Never, period. And I'm telling you, not only never, this is some, you know, I always said a very devoted gentleman that talked to me and suggested that I go to the parade, suggested that maybe we should do something.
In parentheses, I'd say that it's Neria Knafo, the director of JPW, that really engaged with you on this subject and was successful.
I would say Neria, the one and only.
I would say it too.
The one and only who has the diplomacy, the way of doing things, and to get through the message in a way that it's extremely difficult to resent. And I really, really appreciate what he has been doing since I entered Knesset. He brought to me, since the first meeting, a lot of subjects that I could fully identify with, and I was delighted to join. And it goes in line, exactly in line with the values of what we would like to put on the agenda of the State of Israel, because we are in an era of a lot of parties, Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox, that have this desire in 2019 to bring us to the days of the kings, King David or King Solomon. And I'm saying that they are so committed to create a halachic state, but in the same time, they are taking us back 2,000 years ago because of their insufficient ability to do their job. For example, the Minister of Transportation, Smotrich, he's not taking care of any traffic jams that are going all over Israel. And yes, in traffic, we are in the days of King David. It is faster to go on a horse on the highway in Israel than to drive a car in certain hours. And in Ministry of Education, you see the Minister of Education, Rafi Peretz, he's not preparing the next generation of what to do 20 years from now. We are in 2019, and just recently we received an astonishing piece of information that in the last year, only 7 new teachers of physics were accepted in the Ministry of Education, but 477 teachers of Judaism. Yeah. I'm not against Judaic studies, but it cannot be the basis and the majority of studies of the students, because in that case, we will not be able to reach 2029 in good shape.
We just received a question from one of our viewers, and this is the time to encourage you to write questions via the chat. Are you, in agreement with Lieberman's declaration to support the Nisim Giur path, the new idea? I'm not sure that we support of it. We are not, but it was interesting to see that Lieberman is very much into being more liberal in conversion in Israel.
It's not only more liberal. Lieberman was the one supporter of the draft that Moshe Nissim was bringing to the government. And keep in mind that we had a lot of disagreements in the last government regarding conversion to Judaism. And we felt that something needs to be done. For example, there are a lot of soldiers that are not Jewish by halacha, Orthodox halacha, and they want to convert, and we want to do it in the military, and yet the ultra-Orthodox parties, not only that they don't go to the military, they want to control even how things are done in the military. That's why...
Would that include Reform and conservative rabbis as well?
Let's say that Moshe Nissim draft is not speaking about Reform and conservative. It's speaking about Orthodox conversion to Judaism.
And what is your take about Reform and conservative conversions?
I don't have any problem. I support any kind of conversion. People should convert to the school of thought that they believe in.
The state of
I
Israel
serve,
should acknowledge these kinds of conversions in Israel officially?
first of all, the state of Israel should at least make it easy for them to be registered. Uh, I do believe that it needs to be studied.
Do I hear some hesitation on
No, not
behalf of Eli
hesitation, but you want to
Avidar?
change. No, definitely not. But you took me from the issue of Moshe Nissim because it's extremely important. Let me just
Okay.
complete it and go back to the second subject. Moshe Nissim, he is the son of a former chief rabbi. And he ran a thorough research about how to do it. And he consulted rabbis and he consulted all kinds of leaders of the Orthodox community. And he brought to the government a draft that we said, whatever we bring, we support.
Mhm.
The ultra-Orthodox parties did not support it. And it has been on the table of the government, of Netanyahu, since, if I'm not mistaken, February or April 2018. And Netanyahu did not bring it for a decision voting in the government. So that's why we are very sorry about it. And we say that about the conversion draft that we support Moshe Nissim 100%. Now, I'm not running away from the second question. I am not familiar exactly of what is the percentage of conversion to reform and conservative. I'm not fully so, but I will
So
be.
we will make sure that JPW team will inform you.
I'll be delighted, and Neria is more than welcome to inform me. And definitely in the next, if you will invite me for a second time, I'll be delighted to address it.
Great. You talked, Eli, about the elections in the US, and I would like to touch a little about that. Yisrael Beiteinu is a right-wing party, and the elected president of the US 2 weeks ago talked about the fact that if a Jew in America supports the Democratic Party in the US, he has problems with his Jewish identity. What is your reaction? Loyalty.
Loyalty. If it was identity, it was okay, but loyalty.
Even identity is challenging, but okay. What is your reaction to it?
No reaction.
Come on.
I'll tell you
Eli
why.
doesn't speak?
I tell you why. But by no reaction, I'll explain what no reaction is. I'm definitely not going to fall into a tweeting clarification of the president of the US. I do believe that this is exactly a US internal issue, and members of the Jewish community in America should express their views whether they support it or not. We are definitely shouldn't be part of the election process or the election campaign of any president in the US, as much as I would say that I expect the American president not to be part of our elections as well, and not any other foreign leaders to be part of elections in Israel, because each country should run their own elections.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, regarding what he said about members of the Jewish community who are US citizens, they have voting rights, I will leave it to them to address it. And knowing the Jewish community in America, I will tell you that I am grateful to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for sending me for my first posting to the US and to Philadelphia. Usually the US is the second or third posting.
Right.
But after being the first posting in America, I learned a great deal about how is it to be a proud Jew, how is it to be a significant member of the US society, and to play a role and to influence your politicians and to be able to express your opinions, to build coalitions with Gentile groups around you. And so that's why they do not need my advice how to address a tweet that was tweeted by President Trump. Is this...
Oh, yes, very diplomatic on your behalf, I must say. Yes, you went back to your first hand. This is very nice. Eli, let's go back to internal Israeli politics. You declare, and Avigdor Lieberman declared it more than once, that only unity government will be convened in Israel if he would be asked about it, and he was very forceful about it.
That's right.
Now, what would happen if Bibi Netanyahu would say no? Meaning, even if Gantz would be given the first chance to convene a coalition, Bibi would say no. If he's gotten, he would say, what would happen? How would it work arithmetically if one of the parties, Benjamin Netanyahu, would simply say, it's not a deal that I can make?
There is an art called negotiation, and this is basically the topic of my first book, a nonfiction book that I wrote called The Abyss. If I can give myself a PR a little bit, that was published in the US in 2015. And I will tell you this, if you can count on one party that speaks exactly what they will do, it is our party, Yisrael Beiteinu. Netanyahu changes his opinions daily. And you cannot remember exactly what he said yesterday or the week before. Kahol Lavan and Benjamin Gantz, he's inconsistent in his position regarding the Orthodox parties in Israel, regarding Orthodox demands in terms of the IDF, and regard a lot of other issues. So that's why I would suggest that we wait for the elections. We are seeking to be supported by the Israeli public so that we will have enough seats to be significant and to be the one party that none of them, not Benjamin Netanyahu and not Benny Gantz, will be able to create a narrow coalition. In that case, we will...
But if Bibi says no, the only option would be for Benny Gantz to go with the Arab parties, which you said that you would never sit in one coalition with.
And they said that they will not sit in the coalition as well. It's
and
not
if
only
they
one
will
side.
Say that they will?
I don't see it, how it's happening, and we can say what will happen when we will sit on Mars and have elections on Mars.
When Messiah comes.
Okay, but the main issue, let's speak about what will happen. First of all, if Bibi will say no and Benny Gantz will say yes, we will support Benny Gantz to the president, and we will advise the president to let Benny Gantz create the coalition.
But it can lead us again to a deadlock, because if the Likud would say no, how come?
Benjamin Netanyahu can say no, but I do believe that at that point we will reach out to our friends and colleagues in the Likud party and will say, wake up. This country cannot go to a third round of elections.
This discourse is already being conducted?
Yes. So not from our side,
okay,
but basically from members of Likud that have been speaking to us in the last couple of months.
You heard MKs, don't tell us the names unless you insist, but did you speak with MKs or ministers that actually told you, listen, if that happens, we are sacking Netanyahu?
The only way why MKs of Likud will support Netanyahu is only if Benjamin Netanyahu is able to create a government. The second that he is not able to create a government, they will not let him continue be the head of the Likud party, because they understand that it's not about Bibi. It's about the state of Israel.
And if you had to choose between the Likud ministers or future leaders, who would be the one that you think genuinely that could be the next one to convene a coalition, if indeed the Likud convenes that coalition?
Each and every one of them.
Come on. Each and every one?
Of course.
Why?
I'm not a decision-maker in Likud who's going to be the next leader of Likud in case that Netanyahu doesn't accept the unity government and he rejects the unity government and Benny Gantz is receiving the right. This is a very long process to reach a result. And I'm telling you, it's not our position. And as I said, I didn't say it now, but I will say now, we are seeing the personality or the identity of the leaders of Kahol Lavan and Likud as insignificant at this time. Because we do believe why we are seeking a unity government, because we believe that only unity government of those three parties can actually make a government that can function.
Do you see a scenario where Avigdor Lieberman is the one that can make it happen?
For me.
I don't see how Avigdor Lieberman can be the one to create a government, because as he said personally,
in order to be able to do something like this, you have to have at least 24, 25, 26 seats
of the Knesset to be able to create.
We spoke
about the mayor of Jerusalem.
Mhm.
He's one and only. He, one example.
And the Victor Lieberman is not
Lieberman is not Moshe Leon.
No,
Moshe Leon is a magician. Moshe Leon is a magician.
We have a question from Stan Greenspan. He asks, probably he has relatives or friends in Israel. He asks that there is no vibe of elections in the Israeli history. And he asks if there could be like something that would make us surprised in September 17th.
I do support the analysis that there is no vibe because these elections came in the summer and people were tired from the last round of elections. But I can assure him that the vibe is right now in process because the last 2 weeks are going to be very energetic, and I would say even more brutal than before.
Would you give us your gamble about the number of seats that Yisrael Beiteinu will be getting in September 17th?
No, I would never give any kind of estimate, and I'll tell you why. Prophecy was given to the fool after the era of the prophets, as you know, and a lot of people told me in the last elections that Yisrael Beiteinu will not be in the next Knesset, and I was smiling. And they said, why? I said, because I don't care what the estimates or the polls or whatever are done. We are working in the streets. We are reaching out to our supporters, and we are calling them to vote. And we were able to bring a very nice result in the last elections. 5 seats, when each and every one, the state of Israel was given the information that we are not passing. And don't vote for Yisrael Beiteinu because you are throwing your votes. And yet people supported us. And something that happened, which is very interesting, and I believe that it will be studied in the future in political science departments, is that there was some kind of an understanding, a general understanding that if a right-wing party does not support Benjamin Netanyahu for prime minister, their voters will not support the party. And what happened that after we got into a fight with or the other way around, Benjamin Netanyahu identified us as left-wing. What happened that six mandates from Likud moved to Yisrael Beiteinu in 24 hours, which means a lot of general understandings of Israeli politics are not so understandable. People that returned back to Yisrael Beiteinu, they came because we were against Netanyahu. And if I can say something, because I believe that we have viewers also in Israel, and even the viewers from around the world, they have relatives in Israel. The coming elections are on Israeli society, of how we would like to see this society functioning. And we are not looking into a coalition that will do A or do B. It is basically building the future of the next generation of the state of Israel. Is putting the foundation for the youngsters that went just a few days ago to first grade, what they will do when they will reach 22, 23 years old, what their future will be. People that went on retirement last week and they are 67 years old, they have 30 years more to live, and they need to have a future in that way.
Let's hope that we will have a better Israel in the next coming decades. I think all politicians from all parties would support that statement. MK Eli Avidar, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for being with us. We are here broadcasting live from the Masorti office in Jerusalem. Erev Tov and Laila Tov.